The worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
He's the founding partner of Talent Ascension Group, an executive search firm redefining how talent meets opportunity. With a decade of experience, he helps organizations unlock human potential, build high-performing teams, and create cultures that attract A-level talent. He's a purpose-driven, entrepreneurial, and globally minded leader. So excited to welcome to the podcast, Mitch McDermott. Welcome.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have this conversation. It's so relevant right now. Let's just jump right into it and let's talk about, why do people really leave companies?
Yeah, great question. I think it's something a lot of businesses are thinking about now. It's been an interesting 5 years in the employment world, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely.
Nowadays we're seeing, interestingly enough, people stay a little bit more put because of perceived stability of staying where they're at. But when we talk to people who are happy and not looking, and that's typically what our clients hire us to do, a lot of what we're hearing comes down to a few factors. I think it's appreciation, right? Feeling valued. If companies aren't throwing as much money at people as they did during COVID times, making sure that their employees feel appreciated. And sometimes that's a numerical value. Sometimes the numerical value holds more weight because they're not feeling the appreciation in other ways. So then they relate it to the money. So that's a little tip or trick for leaders out there of sometimes, employees aren't as focused on the currency of financial appreciation. If they're getting it in other ways, they're getting recognition. Another big one, especially with top talent, is growth. I talked to someone yesterday who was a top sales rep on their team. He was ready to get to the next level, which was actually enterprise, a little bit more money, more complex accounts. And they kind of strung him along for like most of this year that this would be happening. And he ended up leaving. And he said, I have nothing lined up, but I know I'll have a job by the time, my 2-week runway of being on their payroll runs out. Like, I'm confident I'm going to make it happen. And he probably will. And that's a perfect example of, they told him he wasn't ready and all these different reasons. But the growth plan, right? High performers want to get to the next level. They want to advance. And companies that want to employ high performers need to create paths and plans, or they'll have to know that employment is going to be short-lived and it's going to have an expiration date on it.
I love that. I mean, I totally agree with you on the admiration and that people are not in it just for the paycheck. They want to be appreciated. They want to grow and be able to move up in the company. I mean, you can't just hold people back. And you're seeing top performers walk out the door. How much money is actually leaking out of your company every time great talent leaves?
It probably depends on the role. With that salesperson, I mean, he was outperforming the rest of his team by almost double by the next person down. So the amount of business that person generated was probably millions that walked out with him and is now going to go to potentially a competitor of theirs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just the money they're bringing in. It's just like, how much does it cost? You're going to
Yeah.
have to retrain somebody else and bring them up to speed. And that's almost like double the salary, isn't it? For
Yeah,
a whole
literally. Yeah,
year.
just having the opening, and who knows, it could take them months to find someone. I know with sales, sometimes it takes a few hires to get someone that actually sticks and can generate results. So it could be 12 months before they replace that person with someone who will stick and be there to fill that gap for at least 24 months.
Okay, well, let's hope they focus on stopping it before it happens then.
You right?
And then hiring for performance, is the hiring process designed for yesterday's workforce or today's top performers? Like, how can you predict who'll actually perform before you hire them?
I think that's a really strong question. I think from what I see, a lot of businesses, a lot of leaders are hiring based on yesterday's criteria. It's about getting a job description and then trying to match the resume with the job description. You're checking boxes, you're looking for the perfect piece of paper. And what I find nowadays is with AI, with algorithms, people who you pay to write your resume, there's a lot of inauthenticity out there. Not that
Right.
people stretch the truth on their resume, but they're not written by themselves. And I always like to tell people there's always a person behind the resume. And when we are hired to employ somebody for our clients, I coach my team on understanding the person behind the resume. It's not about checking boxes. Anyone we talk to is going to have the experience to likely be worth putting forward. What we want to understand is who is the best person, who are the best 3 to 5 people in the market. And we do that by understanding their motivations, their currencies, what their vision is for their career. Those are the things that to me tell me if someone fits into what I call 3 different categories. I always say talent fits in 3 buckets. There's builders, there's improvers, there's maintainers. And most jobs fit into one of those 3 categories. You're either
Right.
keeping the lights on in a role or a function. You're either taking something that's working and making it better, or
Yeah.
you're taking a function or role that never existed before and you're creating it from scratch. The way you get long-term tenure is by pairing the right person with the right job type. That's where I think, again, looking at experience, looking at a job description, you can make a hire that way, but is it going to be the right person? And are they going to be there in, 18 months? Those types of categorizations to me have led our team to make really long-term placements with our clients, is understanding who the person really is, what the job really is, and looking for long-term alignment.
That's so interesting because you'd think you'd want everybody who is an improver, but that's not the case. Like, go over your 3 buckets again, just so I can
Yeah. Yeah,
have
it's
clarity on that.
it's maintainers, improvers, and builders. And everyone thinks they want a builder, right? But
Right.
if your role is a maintainer role, you might get a great person in a builder. They're typically the all-stars of people who create. They're going to be bored and they're going to leave in 12 months because that maintainer role is not going to be challenging or fulfilling, and they're going to be itching for that next challenge.
I love it. So do you have to use like assessments or do you just speak with them? Like,
It's really just about understanding who they are, what motivates them, the kind of work they get energy from. It's really getting to understand the person. We don't have necessarily an assessment for it, but you learn a lot about people based on, one, the questions they ask. Like when I interview for my company, I make it more about the candidate. I have them ask me questions because I know their answers are going to be telling me what they think I want to hear. But what they tend to ask is organically important to them. And I learn a lot about someone, right? If their first question is what's the pay, I know money is very important, which in our world, we pay high commission. It's not the end of the world to me, but I now know what their most strong currency is and what they value. If growth is important, that's going to be the first question. So it's interesting. I think in some ways, I conduct reverse interviews where I let them ask me questions and I get to know what's important to them. And then that frames the questions I actually then have for them.
that sounds like a great way to find like the right candidates for the right roles by interviewing them about them. Everybody likes
Yeah,
to talk about their favorite subject, them. So
totally.
I want,
Most, oh,
yeah, go
sorry.
ahead. No,
I was
go.
just going to add one point. When we work with companies, most of the time they make interviewing about them. It's about their needs, their requirements. And I don't think that always finds the most successful long-term fit in a role. And I train my team on our methodology. It's all about make it about the candidate, put them at the center of the world. Uh, and that typically allows you to find if they're going to be the right person or not for the organization we're working with or for the organization you're hiring for. And more importantly, attract them. I mean, because people are sticky, right now, our biggest competition with offers is candidates staying put, not even getting a counter offer, but not even telling their company they were going to leave. And just because of the perceived stability in uncertain times, uncertain futures of well, I've been here for 2 years, so I'll be safe here, which isn't always right or true, but it's a perceived safety and comfort versus going somewhere new in a time that people are feeling could be uncertain in the future. Um, so making it about the candidate also allows you to attract the person you want, because the worst thing that can happen is you interview 5 people, you spend a couple months, hours of time of people's time within a leadership team, and then you make an offer to your dream person, and they decide to not move forward.
Wow. Well, I love that topic of how you attract these high performers, A players, and creating a culture that actually attracts A-level players. So, what culture signals make A-list players want to line up and join, and what mistakes might
Yeah.
on the other side drives them away?
I think the one thing I see is, and I say this in the most perfect way, right? I've seen B level companies try to attract A's. They
Oh,
don't offer what an A player wants, right? Their benefits aren't great. And benefits aren't a huge decision maker, but they stack up when other things aren't paying out. Their PTO is, a week. It's the government minimums, right? They're offering minimums, expecting someone who's exceptional. The A-level companies we tend to work with, they're what I call results-oriented cultures. It's you earn freedom, you have a lot of autonomy, we don't micromanage, but if you're not hitting the numbers, we're going to have a problem. And you can manage that way, not just in sales, but across most major functional areas if you make expectations clear and you give the person the space to hit the results or not. So I think in certain ways, the first thing leaders and companies could ask is, am I an A-level organization? Am I a place that people would leave a company they're happy at to come work for because of what we're doing, the work, the challenge, the culture? Because I think that's the first step. And if the answer is no, then making shifts culturally, making shifts with what you're offering could look like to become the kind of company that will attract that level of talent. And sometimes it's the team. I worked with great companies where the reason we're not getting the right person on the bus is the hiring manager is not an all-star. And maybe the next step is to replace, that functional leader. Maybe it's a director or VP level person. And maybe that person is actually someone that people aren't excited to work for. And I've actually worked with companies where we change that person first. It makes it really easy then to build an all-star team beneath them.
wow. Well, I really love all your points that you're hitting on maintaining and keeping the top talent and attracting them. So, any final words you want to leave our audience with on how can we keep our rock stars and keep attrition rates lower?
Yeah, I think in a time where AI and technology has made life a lot easier, we've become too reliant on it. We've lost the humanity of our work, whether that's, how we lead and develop our people internally, um, how we manage our people, and more importantly, how we identify and bring in new people into our organizations. I think the skills, while those tools are helpful, the skills that are going to separate the leaders of the future from those who are really successful to those who are having a tough time is going to be bringing back the humanity. The differentiator in a world filled with technology is now the human approach, the old school way of doing things. Those are the things that stick out, and I think that would be something to keep in mind in the framing as we continue to use technology. How can we make sure we keep the human touch in what we do and how we bring in and guide our people?
Mitch McDermott, thanks for being a great guest on the podcast. Excellent point about keeping the human element as we move into this AI explosion. So, where can people find more Mitch McDermott?
Yeah, on LinkedIn. That's the best way to find me, connect with me. Feel free to reach out. Always happy to have discussions with folks who are intrigued by some of the messages. And I'm also putting a lot of content out there that I want to add value and help people navigating this time because there is quite a bit of uncertainty out there.
All right, Mitch, I'm going to connect with you there. Thank you.
Thanks.